And again, as long as your line is tight and as long as I stop my rod at 430 and lift, I'm suspending that D-loop. You can see that D-loop is always tight to the rod the whole cast. I'm not losing tension in the line. There's tension the whole time. Learn to keep the tension in the line. Very key to really making a good cast. So that was the single spey we talked about. Let's go into the snap tee. Now the snap tee, it's a sustained anchor cast again. We're going to set our anchor first. And we do that by a simple move of lifting the rod, bringing it out over the river and underneath. Okay, and that's going to position the anchor above me. Okay, if I have a longer bellied line, I may need to push that loop a little bit further downriver to keep my anchor from going too far upriver. A long bellied line, if I were to do my snap and stop it right here, my anchor is going to go way too far upriver on a long belly. Even on this line, that was too far up. You can see I have very little line to work with here and too much anchor above me. So when you set your anchor, depending on your line, kind of learn and figure out where you want to stop that rod to get the best anchor for you. Okay, that right there would be a really good anchor. And now it's very easy for me to come around, stop at 430, and make my cast. Lift, underneath, there's my anchor. Again, now I control my hand, everything's the same. Control my hand, keep the rod level, 430, my D-loop's there. I could have executed a good forward cast there. So that's the snap tee. Any questions on the snap? We're lifting the rod, accelerating there. It's basically a three-step process. Set the anchor, 1, do the D-loop, 2, and then execute a forward cast, 3. Okay, and a good thing to do here is build yourself a tempo. Count 1, 2, 3. And remember, we need to accelerate on every one of our strokes. When we do a switch cast and we do our lift, this is not considered a stroke. It is exactly what it's called. It is a lift. You do not want to put an acceleration into your lift because you're going to send the line up in the air, and that's going to cause a bad sweep every time. Whether it's a switch cast or a single spey, you want a gentle lift, a gentle lift. On the snap tee, we're actually accelerating the line to get the anchor to come up here. So we're putting more energy into it. We're lifting, we're going out over the river and underneath. And you can see I'm just keeping the line moving and accelerating. If I hesitate at all again, if I kind of come up and I hesitate for a second, the line starts to collapse, it makes it more awkward and I end up doing something like that. Keep it moving, flow through it. Just keep the rod moving. Lift, keep it moving, accelerate and stop. And the line will jump right into position for you. So the other thing you can do with a long belly, if you had a long belly line right now, is you can do your snap. Instead of doing it on a wall in front of me like this, what I can do, and this line's not a long belly, but I can do my snap here. And that'll help on a longer belly to put my anchor more down and out in front of me. And then that makes it easy for me to form my D-loop and make my forward cast. Yeah, this is the change of direction cast. This is, and I didn't get into left hand, right hand. This is a cast for river left as a righty or river right as a lefty. Okay, so on river right, my line's going down below me. The only way to get my anchor on my casting shoulder is, I mean, there's a couple ways. You know, you can sweep it like a single spey, or you can snap it. You know, and there's variations. You can do Perry pokes, where you actually do like a single spey, and then dump the line out in front of you, and then sweep it back and cast it out. Sorry, buddy. So that would be, you know, that's another alternative. It's basically a single spey, but I'm just dumping the line and then doing a snap tee, you know, sweep. You can do a circle single, okay, and a circle single would basically be doing a circle and then sweeping it into a D-loop and casting it out. Okay, you can do multiple circles if you want. And the key to doing this type of stuff is acceleration. This is actually a good example for acceleration. If I start this spot and I hesitate at all, you see how it just blows apart? It just, the line gets, you know, I can't anymore control the line because I'm taking the load out of the rod. Once the rod unbends, I can't keep the line moving. I have to keep the rod bent by continually moving the rod, okay? So it's critical, again, to accelerate and flow through your casts. Don't hesitate. So we've talked about the single spey, we've talked about the snap tee. Is there any questions before I move on to river right here on a single spey or a double spey? Or, excuse me, a single spey or a snap tee? You're saying upstream wind? I believe what he's trying to say is on the forward stroke on an upstream wind, because the wind is blowing your D-loop and stuff kind of this way. No, excuse me, it's blowing it this way. So you're trying to say, Neil, right. He's basically saying on a single spey, you know, to drive it a little lower to beat the wind, to drive it into the wind. It's kind of like, you know, if I had a lot of wind here, I would keep that forward stroke, you know, a little flatter. Is that what you're kind of saying, Neil? Yeah, he's just saying to keep that rod stroke, you know, flatter. You know, if it's just like you're on a bonefish flat or something, you got a lot of wind, you're gonna a real flat back cast and just a little bit higher forward cast. Keep it, take that change of elevation and just compress it a little bit. So, yep. So, you know, if we had a downstream wind right now, we'd want to cast either over our opposite shoulder or go lefty. So, in a downstream wind, we can put the anchor below us rather than above us. And we can do that by bringing the rod over, setting the anchor below us here, then forming our D-loop and casting out. And I don't want to hook you guys. Or I don't have a hook on there, don't worry, piece of fuzz. But we're putting that anchor below and we're basically just doing a double spey with over our opposite shoulder. So here, bringing that line around again, the rod's flat. The rod is level, level, level. I stop basically at the same place. At 430, I lift the rod and I cast it out. Really nothing changes. Set the anchor, keep the rod level, stop at 430, lift, and cast it out. And that would be a reverse double spey for a downstream wind if I'm right-handed on this side of the river, river left, okay? When I say river left, my current is moving to my left, okay? So now, if we're gonna go into river right, we can basically do 3 casts from this side. We did 3 casts, and there's other casts too again, but let's call it 3 basic casts from each side of the river, okay? On this side, we got 3 basic casts as a righty. Okay, and just as a lefty, you would just think an opposite. So this side, here I do a single spey, I do a snap tee, or I do a reverse double spey. As a lefty from this side, I would either do a double spey, I would either do a spiral roll, or I would do a snap tee off my opposite shoulder as a lefty from this side of the river. Again, you're always putting the anchor downwind of you. So you have to think about your wind direction and where you're gonna put your anchor. If my wind's coming this way, I'm gonna put my anchor here. If I'm standing this way and the wind's coming this way, I'm going to put my anchor on this side, okay? Any questions on where to put your anchor in regards to wind? Basically, just think the anchor needs to be downwind of you, regardless of if I'm casting this way or casting this way. The anchor is always downwind, and you always cast off your downwind shoulder, whether you decide to do it lefty or righty. It doesn't matter, reverse or standard. You just got to adjust the wind and cast how you're most comfortable. Whether, again, it's switching hands or going cack-handed off the opposite shoulder.